Hi everyone, it's Lena again. Welcome to my garden. In my previous video, I showed you guys these two flower beds that I made in February, and I showed you the process of how I went about it and how long it took me. In this video, I'd like to talk a little bit about the design that I came up with and how I came up with that design and the kind of plants that I chose to put into each of the flower beds. I knew that I wanted to have some type of like seating area in the center, and I wanted to be surrounded by a bunch of beautiful flowers all around me. So at first I wanted to dig all around this area like a circle, but then I realized, okay, probably not the greatest for access, especially if you have company, and we have like a lot of dogs. And so I decided to, instead of doing all around, I just did one left and right. And if you take a closer look at each of the flower bed, you'll see that they have different color tones. So for example, this one here, you see a lot of vibrant yellows and oranges, and I have some hot reds coming up. Whereas this area, you see a bunch of soft pinks and some bright pinks and some whites, lots of greens. The idea behind this is actually from an old show that I used to love. I still love that show. It's an old British show called Rosemary and Thyme. And I don't know if you know it. If you do, I'll be very surprised because very few people do. It's a show about these two gardener ladies who go around and they do people's landscapes, and along the way they solve crimes. So they're amateur sleuths. Anyway, so one of the episodes, they were doing a memorial garden for an older lady who wanted to do a memorial garden for her late husband. And the theme that they came up with was the story of Orpheus and Eurydice. If you don't know the story of Orpheus and Eurydice, I will tell you that real quick. So Orpheus and Eurydice are characters in the Greek mythology. They're a couple who's very, very much in love. So they're, like a bit blissfully happy until one day Eurydice is dancing in the forest and she gets bitten by a snake, and she gets taken to the underworld. So Orpheus is ridden with grief. He gets so sad. He has a hard time functioning, going on with life. So he decides to go down to the underworld and begs King Pluto to release Eurydice back to the upper world. So King Pluto listens to the story, he gets convinced, and he decides to let Eurydice back to the upper world on the condition that Orpheus may not look back to see if Eurydice is following him or not. So she's supposed to walk behind him and follow him back to the upper world. And so that was the agreement. So they walk and walk and walk, and they are almost there, back to the upper world. Okay, and Orpheus, he gets concerned, and he was worried, so he looks back, and immediately Eurydice gets sucked back into the underworld. It's kind of a sad story, really, because it's not a happy ending, but it's still a romantic story nonetheless. How much they loved each other, and the things that he was willing to go through for her. And so as you can probably guess, this area here represents the upper world for me, full of pinks and whites that represent purity and romance and, all the good things in a relationship. And then that area represents the underworld, full of, hot colors like reds and vibrant yellows and oranges. So that's where I got the idea from, Rosemary and Thyme. As I was planting these beautiful flowers in my beds, I realized that these beautiful colors don't just have to represent the upper world and the underworld from the story of Orpheus and Eurydice. They can also represent all kinds of emotions that we go through in our relationships, whether it's love or friendship or, you name it. We have both positive feelings and negative feelings that, come through in the years of relationships. And I think the art of living and the art of maintaining a good relationship relationship is knowing, you know, how to ride out these emotions, knowing that nothing lasts forever, and you know, while things are good and wonderful, enjoy them to the fullest. And when it's over, don't be sad. Know that they will, you know, come back. Just have hope. Just like these flowers, right? They have their peak bloom time, and they have their like fading period, and then they have their dormant period. Same with our emotions. And when you're feeling something like negative, like anger and frustration and fear and doubt, also know that they don't last forever, and they too will pass. Flowers teach me so much about life. Garden actually has taught me so much about, you know, the cycle of life and sometimes the meaning of life without me having to leave my house, which is why I love gardening so much. Now, when it comes to choosing flowers for my beds, I have to consider the conditions. You know, that's the number one thing. For you to be successful, you have to plant the right plant in the right spot. So let's start with the underworld, or the hot colors in this bed here. This bed receives full sun all day. So from morning till like late afternoon. And at the back there is going to be like the back of my garden bed. So I wanted to plant all the tall plants like the rose bushes and gladiolas, hollyhocks, and anything that is taller than like 4 feet are gonna be like back there. And this is like the front of my bed, so anything that's lower, like maybe like a foot or two, or it's like even ground covers is gonna be here in the front. Up close here towards the front, we have some sedum, these maroon plants, and next to it, these bright orange plant is coreopsis. I believe it's a variety called Lil Bang Clementine, Darling Clementine. It's one of those really long names. And I have some celosia that I planted literally like a couple of days ago here in the front. I have yellow dahlia that I planted as a bulb back in March. And my Shasta daisies are coming into full bloom here really nicely. So these are some of my low growing shrubs that I put in the front here. And I have some more celosia going on here. And then some more of the dahlia bulbs that I planted back in March. This plant right here I transplanted from other parts of my garden. This is Rudolph euphorbia. And a lot of these I transplanted, like this one here, Little Bang Darling Clementine coreopsis. I divided it from other parts of my garden. This actually is the same plant as this one right here that I divided earlier this year. So a lot of the plants in this bed are actually free from other parts of my garden. The rose shrubs back here are from David Austin, and I also planted them in March. So here, this one is Molyneux, which is just coming into bloom. And then right here I have Lady of Shalott. Lady of Shalott is done with her first flush. Also the same thing with Golden Celebration, which is this one here. Almost done with its first flush. Such a beautiful buttery yellow. All the plants that you see in this bed are plants that love full sun. So a bunch of roses, gladiolas, hollyhocks, dahlias, daisies, and sedums, and some annuals like celosia are annuals that I planted here. So 80% of this is perennials. I still have a lot of planting to still do in this area, which I will get to soon. So that's my hotbed, my underworld full of hot colors. Now this bed right here, so it's part sun, like this area receives full sun, whereas this area is shady, and it'll stay like that until like 4 p.m. Receives like only a couple hours of sun a day. So over here I have hosta, and I have some impatiens, like these little pink flowers right here, and then quite a lot of coleus, which I just planted a couple of days ago. This plant is Hebe, I believe. That's the name. This is some type of ground cover. I forget the name. I apologize. And then I have dianthus, which will also like get like good amount of sun, but it will tolerate some shade, so that's really good. And here's Dusty Miller, which also loves full sun. And then I have some more, you know, some lavender back there. This plant in the front here is, oh, I forget the names again. I'm so not good with plant names. I'm so new. I've only done this for like 4 years, so I'm still learning all the names of all these plants. And then I have some dahlias coming up. I planted them as bulbs back in March. And then these rose shrubs are also from David Austin. Back here I have the Ancient Mariner, which has a really nice, like kind of soft to true pink. It's a really beautiful shade of pink. I love it. And right next to it is Eustacia V, which is kind of like a coral pink in the center, and like softer pink on the outer rims. It's really beautiful rose. Gorgeous. And this one here, the smallest of them all, this plant is the name is Gabriel Oak, and I have a history with this rose because when I planted it back in March, I didn't come out to look at how it was doing until about 2 weeks later. And when I came out, I found that it was super waterlogged. Like, it was literally sitting in wet soil, like for 2 weeks, and it was dying. It had, like, all the leaves were turning yellow, and I felt so bad. So I dug it up right away and I tried to fix the soil. Like, I added a lot more soil conditioner and amendments, and it forgave me. So and then it started growing again, and now it's put out a lot of buds. And take a look at the bloom. It's really nice, bright pink, gorgeous. I am so glad I saved it in time. So I especially love this rose, Gabriel Oak. So in this bed, my upper world, lots of pinks and purples. Right here I have a Rose of Sharon, which is a nice, lovely shade of pink. It's almost purple. Once it starts to fade, it looks kind of like a little bit purple. So you see a lot of purples and a lot of pinks, all shades of pinks, from soft to true pinks to bright pinks. And I have all these gladiolas that are going to be like in the soft pink to bright pink shades as well. Same with the hollyhocks. And so these are plants that love full sun, and those are plants that love shade. Before this, when there weren't that many beautiful flowers for me to look at here, I never used to come out to this part of the yard much, but now I find myself coming out here quite a lot more often to enjoy myself. The reason why I wanted to do some type of seating area and some new garden beds in that area is because I have an L-shaped backyard. I live in like a cookie cutter home in a corner lot, and so my yard is like kind of like this, and the patio that comes with the house is actually right here. So let me show you real quick. This is a concrete patio that came with the house when we moved in 5 years ago, and you know, we've used this area for 4 or 5 years that we've lived here, which has been great. But the only thing about this area is that the view is not the best. I have like a row of houses on this left side here, and then my neighbor's house like right in front. So this area can sometimes feel a little bit small, especially when we have company or family over. This area used to be super bare. It was just grass, that's it. It was like a running area for our dogs. We are dog people. We bought this house specifically because of the L-shaped yard. We have multiple dogs, and this used to be great for our dogs to run around, but right now our dogs are entering their golden years. Everybody is 10 years old this year, so this area, they don't run around as much anymore, and this area kind of, you know, was like neglected, and we didn't use it much. So I wanted to do something. I wanted to expand my seating area out here a little bit. And you know, if speaking of the view, view, it is much better. You know, you can see like open skies. There are some doors and windows, you know, from our neighbors, but you know, they're kind of far enough away that I don't feel cluttered. It doesn't feel as small. So this is a much better view, you know, especially when we have people over and, you know, we can move the party to like this side of the house. This is still very much an ongoing project for me. There are so many things that I still need to do. Like first of all, I need to mulch this bed as soon as possible, and then I have to get started with the edging, which I'm going to use all the big rocks that I dug up in the area, which I have them all over my yard. I'm gonna use those rocks to edge the area. It's probably the cheapest and the easiest for me. If you are a gardener like me, you know that gardening is a never-ending job. There are always things to do in the garden. I have been so busy with these two beds that I have totally neglected my hydrangea bed right there. It's full of weeds right now, so I have to get going with that too today, pulling up all the weeds. In terms of budget, guys, this is a super simple, very low budget project. As you could see, labor was free because I used myself. You could totally, you know, contact your landscaping companies if you want to skip the hard labor. I actually had 2 companies come in. The quotes that I got from them was so expensive that I decided, you know, I just wanted something simple, something that I could probably just do myself. So that's what I did. The only money that I spent on was on the plants, the roses from David Austin's. That was on like the bareroot roses were like $30 per, and I had 6 in these 2 beds. And then a lot of these plants were from other sections of my yard, some propagations through divisions and cuttings. So I saved a lot of money by doing that. Furniture, I've always had that, so that's free for me. But if you're looking to get like cheap used furniture, so many good places: Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, you know, your neighborhood garage sales, like so many places if you don't mind used furniture. These brick pavers, I went with the cheapest and the smallest size that I got from home improvement store. Because they were smallest and lightest, it was easy for me to lift them up and lay them down. This was a one-man job, or one-woman job in my case. I did it all by myself, and this is you know, what I came up with. Something super simple, super easy. I wanted the plants to, you know, really just be the star of the show and nothing else. So I didn't want to build anything or, you know, lay down like too much foundation or anything like that. I just wanted literally to just dig up some grass, you know, and then plant beautiful flowers and have some seating areas where I can enjoy myself. And I think that's it for me today, you guys. I think that's all the information that I would like to share with you. I hope you you know, enjoyed this video, you know, how I built these flower beds and how I came about it. It's really easy if you're willing to put in the time and the effort and a little bit of labor. You can totally do it by yourself. Alrighty, happy gardening, everybody. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I now have a lot of work to do in the yard, so I should get going. Bye.